All right, we are back another week of batting cleanup. That's Pig Trail Nation Sports Director Alyssa Orange. I'm 4'10", perfect game, 0-star left fielder Evan Kamiko. Just kidding. Thanks for joining us. As always, we love to talk baseball. You know that by now if you've been listening to the show. Alyssa, another week. We have a lot to talk about. SEC opening weekend in both baseball and softball. We'll get to, the recaps for both Arkansas baseball and Arkansas softball. Upcoming matchups this weekend with now Auburn, 23rd ranked Auburn, as the Hogs head out to the Plains. That game is later today at 6 p.m. We'll talk some softball too. We'll talk some Major League Baseball, but another week. What is this, episode 6 now?
Yeah, I think so. And it's been fun so far. I've had a lot of fun. I hope our listeners have had a lot of fun listening to us. And I know you've also brought all the laughs with your aluminum foil and your hat.
Yes, I do have a hat. So at some point when you take your lunch break, because we're going to have to go on a quick lunch break, I'll grab my hat because I left my hat in my backpack. So that's actually good timing. But let's jump right into it. Missouri, we'll just start with a quick recap. Missouri, probably the worst team in the SEC. You saw that last week. And Arkansas, just stellar pitching across the board. I think they did only give up one run and about 8 hits, which is, when you really put that into perspective of 27 innings, it's kind of wild. But overall, it's the weekend, and it's what you wanted to see out of the number one team in the country, getting business done.
Yeah, and I think the whole week in general, even going back to playing Oral Roberts, as a number one team, you just took care of business, and you appreciate that. Being the number one team, there's sometimes that added pressure. So you just got the job done, and you did it well, in a sense where it's like, this team doesn't look right now like it has any chance of slowing down. Like, find me a team that's going to slow them down. Doesn't hurt that you open up with Missouri, and they've got a brand new coach, right? So you can only put so much there. And they're an SEC team. They still have talent, but they're trying to figure out their identity and what this program wants to be in the future. It's got a long history of being a really good program in baseball. So they're just trying to get back to that. Doesn't help when you open up with Arkansas and you get shut out, 2 of the 3 games. And there were moments in those games where you felt for Missouri a little bit, because it's like not that you obviously wanted Missouri to win by any means, but you wanted it to be competitive. Mm-hmm. And that one game was, until they decided to change pitchers and Arkansas hit back-to-back home runs.
That was wild.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
On the radio, and I was like, oh my God.
And it's funny because I was out filming on Saturday the game and covering it for us, and I got the Peyton Stovall home run. I'm like, great, there's one. Let me tweet really quickly. Let me move the camera around. Next thing I know, I have it just on a wide shot of the field, so you can still see Vahiva Aloy at bat. And the next thing I know, I'm like, did he just hit that out? And it's like, yeah, he just hit that out. Okay, quickly adjust. Tweet really quickly. And then Kendall Diggs steps in the box, and I'm like, there's no way they go back-to-back. There's no way they go back-to-back. There's no way they go back-to-back-to-back. And what happens? Of course they go back-to-back-to-back and make my shots not look great, because I'm trying to do a million things at once. But that was probably the wildest sequence of the weekend.
Yeah, it was really fun. And you appreciate just how they really, top to bottom, defense, offense, pitching, just really all around, really solid performance from Arkansas. And so you hope you can take it on the road.
Yeah, and on that, I actually have the Diggs Dinger count. We'll pull that up quickly. It says 4. It's actually 5. Okay. I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, it's actually 5. So that's a user error right there. We're gonna update this live for everybody. Yeah, we
fix it in post.
It's fixed already, so we're good.
Great.
But no, so our Diggs Dinger count is now up to 5 because of, I think he had 2 home runs this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think he had one Friday, one Saturday, and hopefully he hits a couple out in the Plains later today.
Yeah, let's hope so. Fingers crossed.
So as we switch back to our main 2 box, around the SEC too, let's just jump around before we really dive into Auburn. A lot of interesting series going on, and really a lot of interesting results. Kentucky had a sweep over Georgia, despite Charlie Condon continuing to just be a dog. He just hits home runs. And every time I pull up Twitter, it's like, Charlie Condon went yard today. Charlie Condon went yard today. Mississippi State, probably the most surprising, beating LSU. It was a really awesome series to watch. They run-ruled them twice, which I think, everybody's been kind of questioning the 2 Mississippi teams in the SEC because they've been so up and down, and both of them got series opening wins in the SEC this weekend. Ole Miss against South Carolina, who's now fallen out of the top 25. Mississippi State's jumped into the top 25. Auburn, the interesting one, swept by Vandy.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about last week, right? Where, there are teams right now that are looking really, really good. Again, Georgia being a surprise 17-1 team, but Kentucky is still really good. And Kentucky goes in there and beats Georgia. Then Mississippi State starting to get it together, and LSU, who we have seen have so much success, and they're the defending national champions, and they fall. And then, Florida is hosting Texas A&M, and they beat Florida, or they beat Texas A&M. So my alma mater is the only undefeated team in the country. I just had to put that in there, but
it's okay.
But Texas A&M was undefeated going into that series, and they go on the road and they get beat. So, that just shows you how much talent there is in the SEC, how many good teams there are in the SEC. And so Arkansas kind of got, again, a nice little gift in having to open up with Missouri and take care of that. And now we have to really see that this SEC West, which is the last year of having these divisions, is going to be really, really hard to win. And it starts with Auburn, but it's going to be really interesting how they handle their business in all these series when, they host all of these really good teams. And I think that's the benefit for Arkansas is they host LSU and they host Ole Miss. And I think they only have to go on the road in Starkville, I think, or they
no,
host
Starkville's here.
Okay.
They host Mississippi State.
So it really looks nice for Arkansas, and maybe they go down to Texas A&M depending on how the season goes, and that's for the SEC West title. So buckle up, it'll be fun.
Maybe that weekend will be the SEC title itself because of just the way that A&M's look. But hey, A&M lost to Florida, and then Florida drops a midweek game to Jacksonville State, I think. So
I think, did you see that video where that Jacksonville State player was like, "This is our field now," and then they got into a fight?
Yeah, I did. They were like coming after him, and it's like, guys, you beat Florida. Let's slow your roll down.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's kind of big too. I mean, clearly,
it's
I don't
huge.
know, like, we have a resident Florida Gator fan on
Yes,
our
we do.
staff, and she will very quickly say, "Well, Sully doesn't care about these midweek games," and I'm like, "That's cool. You can keep losing them. I don't care, but you keep losing them, so maybe you should care about them."
And it's funny too, because I was texting Courtney and I was like, how come like Florida and Florida State like play? It feels like every other week in baseball, and she was like, well, it's because it's a series that they play throughout the season, which I didn't realize.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool how they do it. They don't switch back and forth, but they play one in Gainesville, one in Jacksonville, and then one in Tallahassee every year.
Mm-hmm. That is,
cool.
It is really cool. And before we, kind of start, we'll talk MLB in a second. But before we look at that, Texas A&M, I couldn't find it on Twitter this morning. I tried to really hard, but they use the double first base bag. In softball, where they have that like two bags, and you can run. You're supposed to, one's on the foul side, one's on the first side. So they put that in their game, the midweek game this week, and they used that. And I thought that was really interesting. So the question, kind of overarching for that, is should more teams, decide to do that for player safety?
Yeah, I don't see it's a bad thing. I mean, I don't think that you lose anything with putting that in there. Obviously with baseball, runners can lead off, so it's not like, oh, the bag is bigger on one side than it is on the other side. Softball, you can't. And if you watch softball players, the way that they stand on the base is they stand with that back leg back, so that first step of momentum, they're still on the bag, and that helps them when they're trying to steal and whatnot. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that traditionalists can say, well, it's ugly and blah, 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 and that's not how the game should be played. And I get all of that. But I think from a safety standpoint, it doesn't hurt. So I don't hate it.
Right. And two on that, and you can look back at the Mason Molina made a play a couple of weeks ago where, everyone was tweeting pictures of athletes too, and he was humming over on a PFP to first base. And, there was a moment Dave said after the game, he was like, I was kind of nervous about that, right? Like, you kind of want him to be smart and not hurt himself, but that second base adds kind of a little bit of a leverage, especially for those tight plays where, to avoid collisions. Did you see, there was a video circulating social media, and I forgot what team it was, but maybe it was like a, D2 or this, North Carolina player, I want to say. It was like a light blue player, just got like trucked on the way to first base, and it just came out of nowhere. No,
I didn't see that, but you're going to have to find that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing too, is, you just give, even if it's this much space where you're not going to collide to anyone, and you've got a little bit more room to work with. I think first base is the only base you could do it, right? You don't want to make second base bigger because that just gives advantage to the defense. Right. But this doesn't give advantage to the defense at all, and it just gives you a little bit more room. if we got to explain rules to people, it's the only bag you can run through, right? So, I think that it makes it safer for everyone involved. So it might be something we're going to go into and get more of sooner rather than later.
And especially as somebody who once, almost had a high ankle sprain running through first base. And when I touched, senior year, like I screwed up my one ankle during, spring training or whatever we wanted to call it, like tryouts, even though my coach was like, you don't have to try out. So I got my wisdom teeth taken out the first weekend of tryouts. So hurt my ankle and then go to the field and I ran over the base and my ankle like went in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing with the extra base where, I was trying to make a play, trying to beat out an infield single in a meaningless scrimmage. Shouldn't have done it looking back, but the athlete and everybody's going to say, I want to beat out that single. I want to have that on my average and, have another base knock. And I was like, I'm still fast. I still got a step or two on me. And unfortunately, was out for like 10 days and then came back way too early. But it's just those plays that you can if you can limit injuries, that'd be a huge step forward, especially with the ankles and the legs when it comes to that first base.
We've seen instances. I mean, the one that always comes to mind is when it was the SEC tournament in 2022. Yeah. And Brady Slavens tripped over first base and hurt himself, and he was out the rest of the year. I mean, and they made an Omaha run.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was 2022, or it could have been in 2021, and they didn't have him when eventually NC State. But regardless, they didn't have any tripped over running on first base to try to avoid the first baseman. So, that's an instance right there where you have a little bit more of that space than you get that. What we won't have is, Heston Kjerstad getting up at the College World Series and pushing down the Texas guy and just saying, oh, I was trying to get to the base. Well, the base is a little bigger now. You don't have to push somebody, which is still one of my favorite videos just because of the entertainment factor to it. And we won't have things like that, but.
When you showed me that video, I loved it, but I think the new Chipotle video from Will McIntyre might have topped it this morning. I was watching it in my car, waiting to walk in here, and that was hilarious of him just going, "You owe me, Tate McGuire owes me Chipotle."
Oh my God, it was great. I listened to the Daily this morning, the Razorback Daily this morning, and they played it. So I heard it before I saw it, and then I went to Twitter and actually watched it. And I was like, that is hilarious. And I was like, we got to figure out how we can incorporate that to our office.
So I wanted to do for March Madness, and I ran this by Courtney and Jacob, but we should do is none of us like labeling, right? Like labeling's the most meticulous thing. The loser of the brackets between the four of us, because Mike does not do brackets, should have to label all of the clips. Should have to do 3 times the labeling. I was telling Courtney it's like in Brooklyn Nine-Nine when Jake and Officer Peralta, or Jake and Officer and Captain Holt make the Halloween heist bet, and he's like, I can steal your watch, and I'll do a month of overtime for you. And he does a month of overtime for him because Jake steals his watch. Just something fun and something funny, but we'll see. I was like, I don't know how far we'll get.
I don't hate that, but yeah, okay, we can consider it.
We'll think about it. It's a win, folks. It's a win.
Yeah. All right. Quick lunch break. This feels like a good opportunity. Yeah. If anyone knows, I'm just making mac and cheese, and I just have to take it off the boiler.
So I guess I'll entertain everybody from home for a minute. Actually, this is a good time. We're going to go to the opening slate quickly, and then I'm going to go grab my hat of the day, and we'll have hat of the day with me. So we'll be back momentarily. Short commercial break. Except we don't have commercials, and nobody pays for it. So okay, that was your short commercial break brought to you by my hat problem and all of the money I've given to Fanatics in the last 10 years buying hats, which I did buy another hat this morning. I'm not proud of it. Yeah, I did. You'll see when it comes in. It's going to be a surprise. But the hat of the week this week, it's the Cubs Field of Dreams hat when they played in 2022. I saw this hat. I have an old version of this. That's got this logo, 1908 on the side. It's at home in Florida. But this one, I was like, I need this one. And it matches my Ian Happ shirt from when the Cubs were not that good. So that's your hat of the week. And while we're on the subject of Major League Baseball, let's talk Major League Baseball really quickly, because why not? It's our show. You can see Alyssa's shirt right there. Apparently it's opening weekend. Like, apparently baseball's season is here, and I don't think anybody really knew. And yes, there's March Madness on right now. No, I don't know what the score of the Michigan-Mississippi State game is.
No, we can't show it to you because, you know, the NCAA has rules.
Yeah, legality issues.
I thought about putting it on the TV behind me, but I was like, no, I'm not trying to get flagged. So.
Yeah, it's on the TV, but you can't see it against the wall. So that's a good thing. And they wouldn't, you know, I don't know how to throw it up behind me. That's too much work. Anyway. Yeah, Major League Baseball started this weekend. Just didn't know that.
Yeah. In Seoul, Korea, South Korea. So a lot of people didn't know. I think if you're not a Dodgers fan or a Padres fan, you didn't know. But they played the last 2 days. The Dodgers won the first one, 5-2. The Padres won today, 15-11. So it was fun. But yeah, it kind of snuck up on everybody. Because obviously March Madness is happening right now, and it usually is a little later in April. Like, this is early.
Yeah.
So it kind of is throwing everybody off, but I'm happy that it's back. I'm excited. Again, as a Dodgers fan, born and raised, I have video and photo proof for anyone who wants to call me a bandwagoner. I think the Dodgers have put a really good team together. I don't care if they bought it. That's what you do. You pay players to come play for you. That's how it works.
And Shohei Ohtani's translator pays to gamble from Shohei.
Awful.
So
How
it's horrible.
Is that?
It's awful.
Oh my God.
Pay your own debts if you're going to gamble.
You watched Maisel. You watched a little bit of.
I've seen a little bit of The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Yeah.
So
Maisel.
Her agent, Susie, there's that part in one of the seasons where she's like, she gambles on sports and she like uses all of Midge's money to like sports bet to her bookie. It's kind of a little bit like that on a much like $4 million scale.
and not a fake TV show.
Right. But horrible stuff, which you hate to see and hear about. But hopefully it rights its wrong. But it's just the beginning. You guys open up in Texas and you watch them raise banners.
We do. That's gonna be nerve-wracking. It's the Thursday night. It's like the first night of baseball. I'll be working, but I will have it on the TV, hopefully, if you let me.
We have 2 TVs.
No, it'll be on the TV or the computer or illegally streaming on my phone. One way or another, I'll be watching that game. I'm really excited. Justin Steele on the bump for the Cubbies. That's going to be really exciting. We'll talk a little bit more about that game next week because we got some more SEC baseball to get back to. But a Marvelous Miss Maisel highlight. I did not have that on the bingo card for today's episode.
Well, you know what? I always like to throw in curveballs. And for you guys listening, because I get that we live in Arkansas, like, don't hate Evan and I because we're Dodgers and Cubs fans. You're probably a St. Louis Cardinal fan.
Gross.
And so just, right? Just forgive us. And let us have,
St. Louis is boring.
Okay.
They're probably Royals fans too. There's probably a lot of Royals fans around here.
There are some.
I am being nice. That is me being nice to St. Louis Cardinals fans.
Okay.
By calling St. Louis boring.
You apologize. I apologize on his behalf. Just, don't hold it against him.
Quick PSA, yes, sorry. It's the East Coaster in me. Anyway, let's talk SEC baseball. Arkansas playing number 23 Auburn this weekend. The Hogs lead the series 54-49. Alyssa, what are you most looking forward to about this next 3-game stretch for the Hogs?
Yeah, well, you look at consistency, right? And you want to see, one, how Arkansas plays on the road in a true road environment. It was a little different because Arkansas, I think, had the most fans in Arlington. So that didn't feel like a road game at all, except for you're playing at Globe Life Park. But also, you've got a day shorter rest. So how does that work with everybody? How does Hagan and Brady and Mason pitch on a day's less rest? In SEC play on the road. And so those are kind of what I'm looking at right now. I mean, I don't really see this team having any, getting too high or too low or changing their approach or really changing anything. I mean, I think the biggest thing that's going to change, and I'm sure you're going to be all over it, is the lineup. Like, what's the lineup going to look like? But other than that, I don't see them tripping themselves up. I just want to see with an extra, less of a day of rest, what this team looks like.
Yeah, and I had to update our little lower third to be accurate for the week, because baseball 23 Auburn and softball versus 20 Mississippi State. We'll talk about softball in a second. But yeah, I think, and it's funny, Coach Deifel, I was on her Zoom this morning, and she talked about Kennedy Miller being consistent and being level-headed, and I really like that. And you bring that up with baseball, and that's the biggest key, right? Can you continue that good stretch of ball? And, you had a great opening weekend. It's going to be a little bit tougher this weekend. Obviously, Auburn, a ranked opponent, probable starter for tonight. Connor McBride, he's 3-0 with a 2.41 ERA. I'm really curious about the hitting, and I nailed the lineup last week. We're going to give a lineup guess in a little bit. Thank you. I should have clipped it and put it on social media, so maybe I'll do that again today. But Connor McBride, like I said, Auburn has a 3.63 team ERA when they're home, which is a really big clip, because I think that's important to keep in mind, because this is a team that gave up 33 runs last weekend against Vanderbilt in that sweep. But they're 10-2 at home. They're a really good home team. They've given up 4 less runs in 7 of those 12 games. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this Arkansas offense does. We know they had, how many runs did they score last week? Like 30 plus again against, Missouri. So there was a lot of runs last weekend. But we'll see what happens now when you go and you have this really, I would say, litmus test, because really until Texas A&M at the end of the year, you're not going to find an atmosphere probably as good as Auburn is going to be, with the additions that they made out in left field and with their new kind of trying to copy the hog pen a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with Auburn is it's a fun place to play. Auburn has done a really good job of elevating that environment, and I'm looking this up because I want to be accurate about it. But it's also a tough place that the Razorbacks have. I don't want to say struggled, but I mean Auburn has put 110% into this this series, and you go back to 2 years ago when they last went to Auburn. And they had to win one of those games in extra innings, and that's I think it was Kendall Diggs who either hit the home run or hit the go-ahead run in extra innings 2 years ago. I'm looking this up just to make sure I'm correct on that. But that's what I remember. I mean, I remember these games going. Let's see.
And while you look this up really quickly, it's an Auburn team, too, that can hit. Cooper McMurray, 362 average, 8 home runs, 28 RBIs. Ike Irish, great baseball name, Ike Irish. 325 average, 6 home runs, 28 RBIs. Mason Manners, 359 average. And Cooper Weiss, 19 RBIs, 328 average. So they got some dudes on this Auburn team, and there's a reason they are ranked 23rd. And I think that atmosphere at home, being 10-2, definitely plays into it as well.
Yeah, I think so. I'm still looking but I feel like I remember watching a game, and it might have been it was in the 2021 year, where they won in 10 innings, 6-5. But they've always had a lot of fun playing this Auburn team, and Auburn has at least been able to win one game of the last couple of series. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. All right, time for me to go 2 for 2. Can I do this the right way? We're going to pull up the field view here, and you can see where I'm a little off-centered. Alyssa, you're good in your box, but I'm not, so I'm just going to adjust so you guys can see me. Okay. So here's kind of the generic... What?
I said ignore the electrical on the side. Can you see that?
No, you can't. You're good.
Never mind then.
I got a nice view of the plant behind you.
You like my plant?
I do like the plant. They look good.
Some are real, some are fake. I won't tell you which one.
That one I'm going to go with is real.
This one?
No, the other one.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Actually, that one's definitely real.
This one is real.
Yeah, I think that one's real.
This one's fake.
Nobody can see that one, unfortunately.
There are 4 right here that are real. And then those back there are fake.
So the Arkansas lineup. Hard transition, the Arkansas lineup. I think it's going to be very similar to last week. Stovall at second. I think Vahiva Aloy is going to be batting second. I really like Diggs in that 3 spot, McLaughlin in that 4 spot at first base. I think Sprague Lott gets the nod today, again, over Holt. Not for any other reason besides, he hit well on Sunday. I think he had 2 hits against Mizzou, kind of got that bat going, struggled a bit on Friday, and DVH held him out on Saturday. So I think he'll make the start at third today. I'm going to go with Peyton Holt is going to be the DH today. I think DVH goes with experience on the road at DH. Again, Ryer Helfrich, we didn't see him at all last weekend. Hopefully that was maybe like a mental kind of clear your head weekend, and we'll see him maybe tomorrow catching for Brady Tigert. because they had Parker Rowland catching for Brady last weekend, and Hudson White will start behind the plate. As for the outfield, I think it'll be Wilmsmeyer in center and Lovich in left. Again, I think DVH goes with that experience. These are two guys who came from Missouri, so they've been on the road in the SEC. Edmondson and Jones, you'll see them probably tomorrow or Sunday. But that's kind of the lineup I'm going to rock with this week, I think, for today's game. And obviously, Hagen Smith on the bump today should be really fun.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, we'll see how you do.
We'll see.
You were 9 for 9 last week. No pressure.
I was. Well, last week I didn't give a batting order. This week I will. So I said Stovall 1, Aloy 2, Diggs 3, McLaughlin 4, JSL 5, Hudson White 6. We'll go Holt 7, Lovich 8, Wilmsmeyer 9. I think I like that order. And
I think you're probably spot on.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. And the last thing we'll do is we'll talk some. I got to readjust my screen quickly.
So,
we'll talk some softball. Mississippi State, number 20.
Yeah, and Arkansas, switching places with the softball team who went down to Auburn last week and got the wins down there. And it was a big week for Bree Ellis. I don't know if you saw her dad.
That was Jacob sent that right away. That was awesome.
It was pretty awesome. And her very first at-bat back at Auburn, hitting that home run was pretty incredible and big for her. But Arkansas really going on the road and getting the win, also big for them as well, just to start SEC play. And it's hard to win on the road. Like, regardless of what sport you play, it's just hard to win on the road. And so for them to get that road win against Auburn was big. And now they head to Mississippi State, or they host Mississippi State. So they're back at home for their SEC home opener. And, again, this is an Arkansas team that's continuing to find its groove. I really like what they do defensively. Offensively, we're getting there. And then again, on the mound, they're just continuing to find that consistency. I think they got it, but I think they want a little bit more of being able to rotate all 4 of those pitchers in seamlessly without any kind of drop off. But you got to love where Arkansas softball is sitting at right now, too.
Yeah, I think they're in good shape, really starting to find where they are. Coach Deifel talked this morning. Kennedy Miller continues to, get better and better week in and week out. She was just named SEC Freshman of the Week. Courtney had a great, soundbite that's on our social media of the most excited one for Kennedy to get that is her son Tripp. I thought that was really a really fun moment there for the Deifels. But again, it's that consistency. And again, Arkansas softball right now, Coach did give some updates on injuries. Riley Cloud is day-to-day, which is a good thing, and Robin Heron also day-to-day. And, they were more worried about Riley than Robin for the injury because Riley's was a hyperextended knee, but, she's going to be day-to-day. Robin, they expect maybe back. But again, Coach Deifel said at the end of the day, for the rest of the staff to make up for that loss, she just wants to see some consistency and wants this team, to just continue to get better week in and week out. And I think they are, and we're seeing it. Should be interesting. I'll be curious if Reese Bauerlein gets the ball at all over the next 3 days. She didn't pitch last weekend against Auburn, but she faces her old team in Mississippi State. That's where she came from. So another week where another Hog faces their former team.
Yeah, and we'll welcome to the transfer portal. But just like Bree, I'm sure that she's going to go down there excited, but also with something to prove. So we'll see what happens, and you hope for the best for sure, and hopefully I say go down there. They're at local, but you know what I mean. Go into this game with something to prove. So.
That's always the goal. It should be a great weekend of baseball and softball. Alyssa, anything else before we go that we missed or have to touch down again?
I don't think so. I think we've done pretty good. I'm curious about this labeling contest that we're gonna do.
If it happens,
figure that out. But it just you get into this part of the year and you just hope for consistency, which is what we've talked about, but also being able to execute without any injuries and all that kind of stuff. And if you can just stay pretty level headed, it's going to be a fun run for us throughout these next couple of weeks through the SEC.
Consistency is key. I think that's going to be the title of episode 6. Alyssa, real quick, your national champion for basketball.
Oh, North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I like it. I don't hate it. I have them going far in one of my multiple 15 brackets.
Oh my gosh. Who'd you pick?
Tennessee.
I
went with Tennessee. It's a dangerous pick. I went with Bama last year in a bracket. They didn't do me too well. I don't know who else, but I like Tennessee UConn in that national championship game, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I switch every 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, you can't change now.
No, now it's obviously too late.
Locked in.
I think I have
Tennessee in
McNeese
my
State
final-
going
I
to
have
like
Tennessee
a
in my
Elite
Final
8.
Four. I have Auburn beating UConn.
I
I have
really
North
like that
Carolina,
pick.
Auburn, Tennessee, and Houston.
You know I'm a big Bruce
Tennessee
Pearl
and
fan, so I
Virginia.
like that pick. I think I went my Final Four is what, Tennessee,
Oh, it's sitting right here.
North Carolina, or Arizona. I think I went
No.
UNC because I have
Auburn, North Carolina, Marquette.
oh
coming out
yeah.
of the South.
Yep. Courtney and I on PT and
You
Extra
love
yesterday
me.
were big Shaka Smart fans.
Dude, I love me some Shaka Smart.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah, I do. Shaka, I think this is the year of Shaka. All right, enough talk of basketball. That's going to do it for this week of Batting Cleanup for Alyssa Orange. I'm Evan Kamiko. Thanks for tuning in every week. We'll see you next Thursday.
See you guys.